Hi everybody, my name is Anthony and this is going to be a series of tutorials on JavaScript. Before we get started, I want to let you know about a few different tools that I'm going to use during this tutorial. I use a text editor called Notepad++. If you want to get it, just go to Google, type it in there, and it's a good text editor. It will highlight different parts of your code in different colors, and it makes the code easy to read. The other thing I have going is I have XAMPP server installed on my computer. This isn't necessary to run JavaScript, but when I develop JavaScript, I like to do it on my localhost server as opposed to just HTML file on my on my C drive. Basically, what XAMPP is it's a server bundle, so it has Apache server, MySQL, database server, and PHP all bundled together. And what it lets me do is I can run PHP code on it. So we won't need it for this lesson, and we won't need it for a lot of lessons. But in the future, if we want to incorporate PHP with our JavaScript code, we'll need a server that can parse our PHP, and a server bundle like XAMPP will help us do that. Okay, so in this tutorial we're going to talk about variables. First of all, let's take a look at our document here. At the top we have our doc type. Basically this is necessary to put there. If you leave it out, you can have formatting issues with your website. So let's just put it there for now and forget about it. In our document we have our HTML tags. Nested inside that we have our head tags and body tags, and where we're going to put our JavaScript is inside these script tags. These script tags I could have nested in the body, I could have also nested in the head, but we're just going to do it in the body for now. A lot of people in their script, they'll use an attribute called text/JavaScript. This basically lets the browser know that we're going to type JavaScript inside here, and this is probably the most correct way to do it, but I'm just going to leave it out because I've been told that the default is JavaScript anyways, and the code seems to work just fine like this. So let's talk about some variables. So how do we, first of all, what is a variable? Well, a variable is basically a container, and a variable can contain all different kinds of data types inside it. We can put a number in our variable, we can put a string in there, we can put an array of values in there. So you can just think of a variable like a container that's holding a value. So let's see how we can declare some variables in JavaScript. So I can use the var keyword here, and I'm creating a variable called a, and I'm setting its value to 1. So the value on the right hand is going in here. So a is now set to 1. And I can also declare a variable without the var keyword. So JavaScript is smart enough to know that here that I want to create a new variable called b, and its value is set to 2. Okay. Creating variables like this, there is some subtle differences between these two ways. JavaScript has a delete function, which I can actually use this delete function, and I can delete b with the delete function, but I can't delete a with it because a was declared with the var keyword. So that's just a rule in JavaScript, and we don't need to worry about it in this tutorial. So 1 is, of course, it's an integer, and an integer is a number. And there's another kind of number which is a decimal. And in programming we call decimals floats. Whoops. The floats. But regardless if it's an integer or a float, okay, these are both numbers. So the data type is number. And we can create more variables. We can create some text. Okay. So, oops. Okay, so here d is being set to a string value. Okay, so this is a string, and in order for JavaScript to know that this is a string, we have to put it inside double quotation marks. So for example, if I left these out, well, this isn't right, because now this looks like there's a variable called text, and I'm setting this variable text, and I'm taking that and I'm putting that in the D value. Well, that's not what we want. We want to set D to a string, so we should put it in double quotation marks. And we could also put this in single quotation marks, and that's the same thing. Okay, and that's a string. There's more data types like true and false. Okay, so true here, it doesn't have quotation marks around it. If I put quotation marks around it, now it's just it's nothing special. It's just a regular string here. I take these away. E is set to true, and true is known as a Boolean data type. Okay, true and false are both Booleans. Let's see what else we have. There's some other primitive data types like a null. If a variable is set to null, null has no value. It's an empty value. There's nothing inside it. And there's also undefined. And I'm going to talk about undefined a little bit later. Okay. So another way we can declare some variables is we can also declare them all on one line, like so. Okay, I don't see this too often, but actually this is incorrect. These should be commas. Okay, so here I set 3 variables. I gave them all values. I did all in one line, but that's one way you can do it. But normally they're just set like in this style. Okay, get rid of that. JavaScript is a case-sensitive language. Now I'm going to show you the first function we're going to look at. It's called document.write. So if we have our browser here, if we want to output something to the browser, we can put our variable inside this function. Okay, so variable A is set to 1. We put that inside our write function here. Okay, and 1 is output to the browser. This is not a function I created. This is a language construct of JavaScript, and so it's built into JavaScript. If we want to output something, just put document.write, and we'll get into the details of this a bit later. And we can put any other thing in here. We could put our string in there and write that to the browser. We can even put our Boolean in there. It's true. Okay. We can check the data types by putting type of in here. Okay, just type of in front of your variable. So here we're not writing E, we're checking the type of E. Okay, here we can see E is a Boolean. Okay, sure enough, it's Boolean. We can check the type of C. It's a number. And D is a string. Okay, so this is a useful thing to remember if you're not sure what kind of data you're working with. We can put type of in front of it. That's also, you know, built-in function in JavaScript. Yeah, so like I was saying, JavaScript is a case-sensitive language. So if I put B in here, a capital B, right? Maybe you're expecting that to be 2. Okay, there's nothing there, because it's case sensitive, so a small b and a capital B are 2 totally different values. And this capital B, right now we're getting nothing. Okay, we check the type of it. It's undefined. Okay, this variable hasn't been created anywhere in our code. Okay, whereas small b, it's a number, right? Well, let's see. So just be careful to the case of your variables. We can also create a variable like this, okay, var x. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a variable, and you know, this variable exists in memory, but it has no value. So its value is undefined. Okay, it's a variable, but it has no value. And we can check that. Okay. Well, what's the type of x? It's undefined. Okay, this variable exists, but its value is undefined. But if we set this to something like 11, now its type is a number. Okay, it sees this as a number. I can write that out. It's 11. Oops. Okay. The last thing that I want to talk about is, like I was saying, there's a subtle difference between declaring your variables with the var keyword and not using the var keyword. Okay, so first of all, let's just write out a one last time here. Oops, that happens sometimes. Okay, a is currently set to 1. Okay, now let's try to delete that first. I'm going to try to delete a. So if this successfully deleted a, I shouldn't be able to write this out to the browser. Let's see what happens. Okay, it's still working. I'm still able to write out 1 to the browser. So this was unsuccessful. It was unable to delete. It was unable to delete a, and we can see that a still exists. It's a number. Okay. Now let's try to do the same thing to b. Okay. So b was also a number we created, but we didn't use the var keyword to we didn't use the var keyword. We just wrote b. So let's see what happens now, and there's nothing because this worked. We deleted b here, and we weren't able to write it out. Okay. We check the type here. The type is undefined because it doesn't exist. It was successfully deleted here. Okay. But if we take this out, now the type is number. Okay. And it exists again. We write it out to the browser. Okay. There it is too. Okay. So there you can see the subtle difference between declaring your variables with var and without var. That's all I'm going to talk about in this tutorial, and we'll talk more about variables in the next one.